Welcome to the podcast, People More Interesting Than Me. I'm your host, Michael Strumsky. Today, I have Tehilla Aloni, a former Israeli national female judo champion and boot camp instructor turned entrepreneur, CEO, homeopath, and extrasensory business consultant. As a widowed single parent, she has had to navigate life's challenges and come out stronger on the other side. Enjoy. First off, the most important thing, how do you pronounce your first and last name?
Tehilla Aloni.
Okay, Tehilla Aloni. Did I say that right?
That's as good as it gets for non-Hebrew speakers.
Okay, I'm going to write that down phonetically for me, just so I don't mispronounce it. So what time is it currently now on your side?
3:05.
3:05.
And what's on your side?
Right now it's 8 a.m.
Okay.
And you have two kids, right?
Yeah.
I have two kids as well, but how old are yours?
6 and 3.
6 and 3. So I have a 2.5 and a 8-month-old right now.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yes. So as you know, it's like, well, just as any parent knows, like 6 and 7, I guess it depends on the children, but 6 and 7 a.m. is like usually like that's your automatic alarm clock. Like you don't even, the funny thing is if you sleep past 6 or 7, there's a problem somewhere. Yeah. Like it's like when you wake up late and you feel well rested, you're late for work. Before children. Can you kind of tell me when we connected, the biggest thing I thought was really cool, and I know a couple people who was in the U.S. national judo like Olympics in the U.S. And the funny thing is you never see it with the people. You know what I mean? Like you look at them and like you never know, like it would pack, like that person would pack such a big punch. And the other thing is like nowadays a lot of like big celebrities and CEOs are doing it. Like have you seen like Tom Hardy just participated in I think it was jiu-jitsu, but he was in a competition in like England, and then you've got Mark Zuckerberg I think did that as well, like won a competition. And I just think it just goes towards my idea that like Tom Hardy is very muscular and big, but Mark Zuckerberg, the coder, is also like trained himself. So what made you get into that?
Well, when I was 4, I had a neighbor, an next door neighbor, a girl, and she was in judo, and she used to beat me up. So I decided I also wanted to go to judo, and my mom said, "You're too young. Next year you can go." So I waited very impatiently, and the next year I was there, and that's how I started judo at the age of 5.
So did you do it because it fascinated you, or did you do it because you didn't want to get bullied anymore by this girl?
I don't even remember. I just decided that's what I was going to do, and I must admit I didn't even enjoy it, but I just kept on doing it. There was just something pushing me to do it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't, it wasn't like a passion or anything like that. And over the years, it became a part of my identity. And then when I became the national champion and I was on a national team, then I already started enjoying more, but I was more enjoying like the social side of it, flying abroad. I used to fly abroad all the time, to training camps and competitions. So I love that. I love not having to go to school. So it was more like what's around it. And I loved winning. But the thing is that winning is just like this 1 second where you win. And then you have to go back, to the grinding board and train again. So it's a huge, sense of satisfaction when you manage to like throw the perfect, ippon. That's in judo, that's the perfect throw. But it tastes so sweet, but it doesn't last very long. So
it's funny the way you describe it. It kind of makes me feel like you're like a savant for it, and you're just like you have a gift for it. The way you're describing it, and then it just flowed for you. And do you get what I'm saying? Like, those people who are just naturally good.
I don't necessarily think it was. I was just very determined, and I kind of kept on doing it. And I might have been, I suppose I had a talent, but it was a lot of hard work. But it just became part of my identity, and at the time I wasn't questioning it. Now I'm at my age now, I question everything I do, and I always make sure that short-term goals meet long-term goals. But it sort of, when I was young, it kind of was like sort of a kind of like inertia, sort of the force kind of takes you when you're rolling with it. And I remember when I had to quit after I injured my knee, and I was on the phone with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and we were talking for hours, and I was like, how will I quit? This is part of my identity. Whenever someone introduces me, it's always, she's a judo champion. Yeah, exactly. That was my thing. That was what made me special. I was doing it since the age of 5 till 18. How was I going to quit? Even though I hated it. Yeah, I was suffering, and I didn't like the competition. I didn't like it. It was training. Every time I used to start training, it used to be like 2.5-hour training sessions, 1.5-hour training sessions.
How early would you have to wake up?
Twice a day.
Yeah.
Twice a day. I was just like, I was spitting blood, literally. But I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. And it was part of my identity. But the fact that I injured, somehow I think the injury was a subconscious choice to let me off the hook, because the country had invested in me, coaches were invested in me. I was, so many people invested in me, and I couldn't just leave and say, listen, I've had enough. So once I injured my knee, I sort of had a justification of why I can leave, and it was a huge step for me. So I remember it was the night just before Sylvester, New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And I was joking with my friend, I think with my ex, and we were saying, I think it was 98 or 99, 98 judo champion, 99 former judo champion. So that was when I made the switch during that phone call in the night. That's when I sort of made the decision that I would quit, and then I would do something meaningful in the army, because at the time I was in the army, but I was, at the status of an excellent athlete, and I wasn't doing anything close to meaningful. And then I decided I was going to quit, but I was going to I wanted to become a boot camp instructor for new recruits. And then once I decided that, I put all my focus on becoming that, because the army usually doesn't give you more than one course in the beginning. And I already had received my course. So I had to start pulling strings and, starting to put a lot of pressure on the right people in the army to actually get me so I could become a boot camp instructor. So that's what I just shifted my focus. So at least I had another goal. Sort of, I wasn't just going to sit and, wallow in it. And that's when I made the change from being, I always say, an individual athlete, especially high level, is someone who's very egocentric and egotistical, because you have to focus on your success only, and it's a zero-sum game. And by becoming a boot camp instructor for new recruits, especially I was new male recruits from difficult backgrounds, it's a thankless job. And you have to be completely selfless and just give it your all, sleeping 3-4 hours a night. And it was very difficult, but it made me make that shift. It enabled me to do that shift from someone who's self-centered and focused, in order to, be in that position when I'm actually giving to people who really don't appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. And I guess the thing that fascinates me with Israel is the fact with the conscription service of like 2 years for every individual. What's your opinion?
3 years actually.
Is it okay? I read 2.
Two for women, 3 for men.
So what's your opinion on, I guess, like other countries, like especially like the US, where we have such a strong like military, but we don't require it? What's your opinion?
I think the army doesn't suit everyone, okay? But I think it does a huge thing for Israeli society. Whoever does go through the army, it makes you grow up so quickly in such a short amount of time. It gives you an opportunity to have take responsibility and to do things that you would never actually do as a civilian or as a young person that age anywhere else in the world. I think it's a huge opportunity to grow. It's very painful, but like most painful opportunities, if you take it to the right place, it's very good for you ultimately, and you learn a lot. So, like I said, it's not suitable for everyone, but for most people, it does a whole load of good.
Yeah.
So I think it's highly recommended, and I think Israeli society wouldn't be the same, for the better or for worse without that. But I think mostly for the better.
Okay. And obviously you said you were working with the boot camps. What's the hardest thing that people have to prepare for coming into it? Like what do you see as the biggest milestone for them, I guess?
Losing your freedom. That's, being told what to do at every single given moment of the day. That losing complete control of your time, and being bossed around by people that you don't necessarily think much of, to say the least. Doing things that you might find stupid, but being forced to do them. Not to mention leaving home, and those are the things that some people are relieved to leave home, but others, depends on the conditions and your surroundings. And if you're in combat, then you have the whole combat situations, which are very traumatic. So there's it's not easy.
Yeah. No, I can definitely tell. Like, and just digging into, I guess, all the aspects of your life. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you've got your hands in a bunch of other stuff, and you're a single parent. Like, how do you find the time? Like, I have 2 children and I'm working and doing a podcast, but still, like, I find maybe like 30 minutes to myself. How do you do it?
Well, I think your kids are very young, so it's difficult to find the time at that age. But I'm very planned. I'm very organized. So I have time slots for everything. I work with lists. Everything's written down. Everything's listed. Everything's planned. And I also plan my time with my children. So when I'm with my kids, I'm completely I'm only with them. I have different hats, but I make sure to stick to my role, and not to mix my different roles at different times, because that creates chaos. But when I'm with my kids, I'm 100% with them as much as I can, because when I see, even if I take a phone call that's related to work, then things already, the vibe changes and things start to get out of hand. So if I'm completely dedicated and present at the moment in my present role, that's when things work. So that's how I do it. But it does take a lot of planning, and I make sure to put them to bed by 7, 7:30. So I think that's a key.
Yeah.
Key factor. Having like a bedtime routine makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's always that you always want to think it's 7, and then there's like, I don't know, they try everything.
Yeah. So it's 7:30, 7, 7:30. It usually doesn't.
They want to say goodbye. They want to say goodnight to everyone in the house. They want a cup of water. They they try to pull out everything in the book.
Yeah, but I think if you determine and you keep on, it's just like with the boot camp instructor. When I was a boot camp instructor, you just have to keep the same line, be very determined, be very clear, and not give an inch. If you give an inch, then you've lost.
So do you think that you would put have you started putting your kids in judo?
Not yet, but I am considering it for next year for my 6-year-old daughter. I think I wouldn't want her to become a professional judo.
That was my next question. Do you want her to?
No, I don't need to go to professional, because I think professional is very tough on the body, and there's also weight cuts which are very unhealthy. But I think as far as self-confidence, self-defense, intelligence, judo is great for developing the physical aspect, and I think it would be a good start. So I would like her to do that just for a few years, just to get the foundation. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I'd like to go professional. Yeah. Having said that, she's very similar to me, my daughter. So I don't know where she'd take it.
After when you first started boot camp, how did you, I guess, branch out from that?
Well, I branched out after I was like I said, I was in the boot camp for new male recruits, and then it was really difficult. And after that, I became a commander in a course teaching other women to become boot camp instructors. So I taught, what I knew to, I moved, I passed on the information and the knowledge to the next generation. So I was very happy doing that, because after working with completely non-motivated soldiers, suddenly I was working with these hyper-motivated girls which wanted to do what I did, and they wanted to learn from me, and I felt I could give all this knowledge, and it was appreciated.
They were really listening this time. They
Yeah,
weren't just
exactly.
trying to check off a box.
No, yeah, exactly. So that was a very refreshing experience.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I guess being a single parent, do you feel like you have to take on much more responsibility for your children, not on a like we said, like a time basis, but that you have to instill the values of two parents? Or do you feel like you just have to give a lot more because it's just you?
I don't know. You see, my husband passed away 2 years ago, and I've never thought of it that way. I sort of like I just do what needs to be done. I don't think it's productive to start thinking what if and start quantifying what I'm giving. I just do what needs to be done, and I do it to the best of my abilities, and I make sure to keep learning. I go to parenting courses, and I just keep on growing and developing myself in every respect that I can, because I don't think life. I think the way I see it, God gives you the experiences you need and the lessons in life in order to build your unique skill set, so you can bring what you need to bring into this world. And we developed quite well under through challenges, unfortunately. And it's not easy, but I've grown and I've learned so much, and I can see that this unique skill set that I've developed through my life experience, 2020 hindsight, but looking back, I see that it's brought me to who I am today. And today I am in a position where I feel that I can help a lot of people, thanks to my, like I say, my unique skill set.
Okay.
So it's part of the journey as a soul, I suppose, in this world.
So I guess with all this wisdom and knowledge, especially from the last, I guess, 5 to 10 years that you've done, where do you see yourself? What's the perfect job for you, or perfect position, like company wise? Where do you see yourself?
That's the perfect job for me is what I do today.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. I'm the CEO of an access control company. I've been a homeopath for the past 20 years. I've got a large clinic where I help lots of people. And the past few years, I founded another business, which is called Bioergonomy for Business, which is basically where I bring also my homeopathic knowledge, all the spiritual knowledge I've learned over the years, whether it's Kabbalah, NLP, and other spiritual practice and martial arts, and my extrasensory perception in a business consulting company. So from what I understand, what I've been seeing over the years through my homeopathic practice is that especially people who own a small business, the business is like their baby. It's a reflection of them. And people repeat conscious and subconscious patterns also in their personal life and in their business life. And when I saw that when I gave homeopathic remedies to business owners, they improved their businesses thrived. They managed to overcome all different patterns that were holding them back. And I decided that, first of all, that would be great to apply to any business. So when I work especially I work with businesswomen. So my approach is a holistic approach. So first of all, I give the homeopathic remedy in order to help all the physical and emotional and mental things that might be holding the person back and are reflected naturally in the business. And they help them also, a good homeopathic remedy also helps the person tap into their intuition, align themselves with abundance. I just saw it all the time through homeopathy. And then what I do with the bioergonomy, which is basically an extrasensory technique, which allows me to influence and perceive the subject that I'm focusing on. I use the bioergonomy to also make sure that, according to bioergonomy, every person, every entity, whether it's a business, a bank account, a relationship, a person, an animal, has energy fields. And once these energy fields are disrupted, that's when you have illness or problems. So basically what I do is, with the bioergonomy, I make sure that all the energy fields are intact. And if they're not, I use that, I use the bioergonomy to fix that. I make sure that, from what my experience, in order to go ahead with something that you're doing, focusing on, you have to have 5 agreements that, or I'd say 5 paradigms that are in place. I'll go with them quickly. I know them in Hebrew, I could have to translate them as I do it. So the first thing is, I desire. It's something, say you want to open a new business, or you want to take on a manager, okay, a CEO for the company owner. So first of all, something that you desire. It's something that you have permission to do. The third one is something that you will succeed in doing. The fourth one is something that is good for you. And the first one is that it's something that you're worthy of. Because my experience, when someone doesn't do something in their business, in their life, anything, there's something, it's usually something's off in those 5 sort of agreements, 5 paradigms. So I make sure that those 5 paradigms are also intact. And sometimes it could be, there could be many reasons why they might not all be aligned. And that for me is like making sure that the foundation of the business and the person is working properly. Once you have that spiritual foundation, all the energy fields are intact, we have no blocks. And then I use the extrasensory perception, the bioergonomy, in order to make decisions. Because as a business owner, you're constantly trying to make decisions, having to make decisions. Should you take this contractor? Should you take a different contractor? Should you go for this sales pitch? Should you go for this strategy? Should I hire this person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the bioergonomy gives that extrasensory perception and helps business owners make decisions. So I love my business because I love giving this holistic personal approach to the business, because I think that most people, I'm not sure they realize that a business is something spiritual. Sort of, it's what we see in the material world is a result of it's a reflection of what goes on in the spiritual realm. And once you know how to adhere to spiritual principles, and you realize that it's much easier to influence, I say, reality through those principles. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
So my question is, what would you say? I mean, you must get some people come in and they don't believe it. How do you kind of crack their shell? Because you probably have.
Most people don't. Yeah, so like most people don't believe it.
So what would you say to, like, or how would you, I guess, what's your method for, I guess, not convert, that's not the correct method, but easing them in?
Listen, most people are very skeptical, and that's fine with me. I'm not worried about that. Even with homeopathy, people usually come to homeopapathy after they've been, disappointed from, they've tried almost everything
surgeries
else.
And like all these,
nothing else has worked. They've tried everything. They're, basically on their last legs, and they're just looking for something. That's quite, I wouldn't say most, but quite a few people come to homeopathy in that situation. And with the extrasensory, of course, it sounds completely out there.
Because I mean, you would probably agree with this. There's probably some people who take advantage of that name, and maybe they're not doing a good name to homeopathic.
Yeah, but you see, like I said, I'm not worried about skeptics, because I know that I'm very results oriented. Especially being with my history of judo and the boot camp, and I'm very pragmatic. and results. I've got people working with me with homeopathy who've been at my clinic, and they've brought their family and their kids for the past 20 years. And the only reason they stay is because they see results. They see that it helps them, and they finally found a solution. Life throws challenges at you all the time, and they found a good solution and they stick to it. So, it's just results. The same thing with with the extrasensory business consultancy, the bioergonomy. Most people start as skeptics, but after, usually after 20 minutes, half an hour, when they see that I can tell them information that there is no way in the world that I would know, then they start to get convinced, and I work with them, and over time, as trust builds and they see results and they see that it works, that's when they stay. So I'm not worried about skeptics, because it's just part of, it's part of the deal. By the way, one of my now colleagues, one of my former students, the reason she studied homeopathy was because she had MS and it helped her. And then she decided to study homeopathy. And now I think she's the chairman of the Homeopathic Association in Israel.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's just results, especially with things that are so, they sound so airy-fairy, and who would?
Yeah.
So the proof is in the pudding at the end of the day. That's why people stay in it.
Yeah, because over in the United States, some people, when you mention homeopathic, they get like an image of like a hippie and crystals and like.
Yeah.
and I definitely, it's just like everything. There's a spectrum of like, these people are actually doing good for their, I wouldn't say sector, but I think it all depends on results. Not necessarily you're done with it, because usually when you get involved in something like this, like people who are addicted to alcohol, they're not done with being alcoholics. If that, you're just always making sure that you're in a good state. It's not like you're done.
I'll tell you what, with homeopathy, we aim for a permanent cure, permanent results. So the people that come to me, they usually come with a certain problem, and thank God that it improves, and they stay even after the initial problem is resolved, because they like I say, they finally found a good solution, a good tool. It's always, I keep on telling them, look, it's not that we don't do conventional medicine. It's just that our toolbox you've got more choices before you do the medication, the surgery. You check, you try the alternative solutions, which are, I'd say, which have less side effects.
Mm-hmm.
So the price you have to pay is lower. And you try that, and if it doesn't work, you can always do the medication or the surgery and go. So it's not that I'm against conventional medicine. It's just that I just think that you've got so many choices nowadays to approach different problems. You just need to find what works for you.
Yeah, of course. So let me start with my wrap-up question. What is something that your parents did growing up that you'd like to pass on to your children? And what is something that you might want to try, or that you're doing now new, or maybe something that you don't want to do that your parents did?
So I think my parents, until today, they're always giving me a sense that they have my back. They're like my safety net. They're always present, even if we had our arguments. I just know that they're my safety net. They're always there to back me up until today. And I think that's a huge gift, to come into the world and know that you belong, you have a sense of, like I was talking about identity, but it's a deep identity, and it's a deep connection to, you have a family, you've got a strong family that has your back. And I think that's very important. They instilled in me also the importance of family. I've got brothers, my brother, my sister. We're like, so you belong to a tribe. So I think that's very important, and that's why it's very important for me to have my kids know the family and see the family and be in contact with the family, because the family is like, it's the family.
No, I totally get it. And when you say tribe, it's so true. Just because my boss always says that, because we're a small company where I work, and it's like he says tribe, and it just feels more, I don't know, like tight knit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I think of Native Americans when I think of tribe, or Aboriginals, but when you think about those people, like, you know them so well. It's not, I mean, it is family, but in some respects it's more than, it's hard to say more than family, but you're a community. Like, you're just
yeah,
so tight knit that you fill each other's gaps. You're supporting one another always.
exactly. Because I think a tribe also, everyone has their position. Everyone has their, where you stand in the tribe. There's a hierarchy, and everyone has their, you've got the hunter, you've got the
Yeah, you've got a role, but you're
yeah, you've got your
also
role.
being supported by
Exactly.
everyone around you to either make
Yeah,
you stronger or support you when you're weak.
exactly. And so I think that's hugely important. I think, we're a tribal species, and it's very important, especially in today's society, which is so individualistic, to keep that tribe, that tribal identity. So that's what I want to instill in my children. And what I want to also instill in children, which my parents didn't focus on so much, is spirituality. Is having awareness of that our life is guided by a higher force, and that everything does happen for the best. There's a reason why things happen, and you're being guided towards your calling, and that it's the journey of a soul. And I want to instill that perspective and that faith in my children, that deep understanding, which I think it's living life thinking that there's a reason for everything. It makes it so much easier to accept things that are thrown at you, because inside you believe it's for your higher good. Whereas if you live life and you think things are just random, and you just have to sort of overcome them, and whether it's for you, whether it's against it, it's a completely different sense of, I think, trust in the universe and confidence. And I think it's very important to live life that way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mental shield of armor, or strength, or muscle, spiritual muscle, basically. That
Yeah.
way you can kind of, it's funny, it's like whenever, like, I go to this gym where you set different levels and stuff like that. It's very good for my ADHD, but if I've already done it before, like mentally, I can do it physically. It's like
Yeah.
my brain must, I mean, obviously it'll take a lot more mental muscle for me to do something if I haven't done it before, but I've done 25 miles already. What's 25 miles like a month later? Because I've already done it.
And and more research is showing that um, your mindset, your state of mind, has a huge effect on your overall health. And I think, and I've also heard, that the reason why it's called practicing faith is because you have to practice it. It's not easy, when you first faced with a challenge, and you have to keep on practicing it and applying that muscle, and practicing that mindset, until it becomes a part of you, and it becomes easier over time. But it's not something, it's not, definitely depends how you grew up, but it's not necessarily a natural path of your being.
Yeah, just I mean, just as you know, with younger in your life with judo, if you don't practice, if you don't lift, if you don't, your muscles are going to atrophy, just like your spiritual muscles. Like, they're going to get weak, and so is, I guess, your resolve, your emotional well-being. It's just hard because muscles you can see and you can feel immediately. However, spiritual stuff and like your emotions and how you feel, you can't see. So that's so much harder to kind of realize, and you can't look at yourself from the outside, but you can look in a mirror. You can't really quantify your own being by, you really have to dig deep in like meditation, or like what you're doing with your group. You're trying to look at these people and help them look as kind of like a spiritual mirror, you would say.
Yeah, I know, but I think that things are simpler than what we think many times. If you're happy and you feel like this inner sense of peace and quiet, like you feel like you're centered, that's what I think, one should be striving for. It doesn't have to be like a huge sort of euphoric experience. It's spiritual things are usually more quiet. It's like still waters run deep. Um, so people are, especially today, we're overwhelmed. Our nervous system is overwhelmed with all these different stimuli, and it's the small things, I think, that you learn to find joy, and also you learn to use them as indicators as to where you're at spiritually and mentally. But like it's practice, like everything else.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are you working on right now? What do you want to tell everybody?
Well, I've got my homeopathy clinic, which I'm always working on. And like I said, the past few years, I've started this new business, which is a bioergonomy for business. Bioergonomy for business, which is, for me, it's like the culmination of all my skills, the unique skill set that I've developed over the years, where I can bring the spiritual into the material world, and I can give a holistic response, a holistic solution for businesswomen who are looking to take their small businesses to the next step. So that's my passion right now. I love doing it because I just love bringing it sort of all together.
So if they want to look, if any of the listeners want to look you up, it's the best one is bioforbiz.com.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my website. BIO, the number 4, biz.com.
Okay.
And there's also my LinkedIn, Tehilla Aloni. So those are two good channels to get through.
Okay. Yeah, people check it out. But yeah, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate this. And I know we have a huge time gap between us, so I'm glad we were able to make it work.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here on the show, and I love what you do. I think it's so important, and I wish you health and happiness and a long, happy life.
Well, thank you. You as well, and your kids as well, because I know what it's like to have 2 children, and it's like you have to steady your health and their health at the same time. So it's like a seesaw.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, but I always say, I don't know how people raise children without homeopathic remedies. My kids, when they sleep, I tell them, oh, remedy, they open their mouth and I pop in the remedy. And I don't think, especially actually, when they were 2 years old, don't think almost a day went by without them getting a different homeopathic remedy. So I think raising kids without homeopathy is a miracle in itself.
But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you like this week's episode of People More Interesting Than Me, please follow me on Apple Podcasts so you won't miss out on more episodes like these.